All right, guys, so today we're gonna check out the Semgo EM10, and it's actually codename Dream. Now the 10 that's in the model number actually stands for how many drivers are being used in this IEM. These are not cheap because they do come in retailing at $439. But if you look at their website and you see how they describe them, you definitely would see that they're building these up to be something pretty special. On their site, it says this is a reference grade in-ear headphone masterpiece, and it embodies the essence of dreams. Now, I know companies like to always describe their products in a way to make it seem like it is the best of the best, but I think this is definitely trying to pump these up quite a bit. So I was intrigued to see what all these are capable of doing. Like I said, these are using 10 different drivers. It's using a single-sided dynamic driver mixed with 8 balanced armature drivers and 1 piezoelectric ceramic driver. Now, we don't have a whole lot of experience with checking out piezoelectric drivers on the channel. This is not something that's very common in a lot of other IEMs. And what this driver is mainly focused on is treble, but not in the way that you would normally expect. It's not trying to like make these overly bright or overly harsh. It brings out treble in a way, but it also tries to smooth it out some. But we'll talk about that a little bit more once we actually get to the sound. Now, one of the first things that I want to talk about is the packaging. The box on these are really large, especially considering that it's just for a pair of IEMs. I think it's trying to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth just by, looking at the packaging itself. Inside the box, it's fairly simple. You do get a really nice, almost silver leather case. It's able to house all the things that you're getting inside this case. You're getting 6 sets of silicone ear tips. It does come with a 4.4 millimeter balanced adapter, which is a little different. Most IEMs and headphones, especially like audiophile grade, come with a 1/4 inch adapter. So having that balanced adapter, I think, is a nice touch. Now the cable itself, it feels like a really nice premium cable. It's a silver plated copper cable. It does use the 2-pin connection, which I've said in the past, this is basically like extremely common at this point. If you're into IEMs, you definitely have some other cables that use this connection. On the other end, it is using a straight 3.5 millimeter headphone plug-in. This is pretty common, which means you can just plug it into basically any device that uses a normal headphone jack. And that, in my opinion, is also important because this pair is super easy to drive. It does come with an impedance level of 41.6 ohms. And I'm gonna say this right now, I don't feel like this pair requires an amp at all, and I don't feel like you're sacrificing anything by just skipping having an amp to use these. Now, I just use these with a straight USB-C to 3.5 millimeter dongle, plugged straight into my Pixel Fold. There's like no amplification here. There's no DAC. There's nothing trying to do anything to the sound. And I was very pleased with the amount of volume I was getting out of these, but also the bass, the mids, and the treble that I was able to get out of them too. Obviously, using an amp, you're gonna be able to pull a little bit more out of these, but I just don't feel like it was necessary. And again, I was just so surprised with what I was getting plugged straight in to whatever I was using. Now, the IEMs themselves, it actually has 2 different colors on each IEM. One is black and one is silver. So it's very easy to differentiate the left and the right. Although if you're used to IEMs, you'll know how they go anyway. And they're really comfortable. It's using this 3D printed resin. It has a nice smooth finish. It fits in my ears comfortably. I never felt like they were moving. I never felt like they were gonna fall out. And I felt like this, combined with the ear tips that they've included, was just like the perfect match. I was kind of surprised to see that there's no foam ear tips, because most of the time, once you start to spend this amount of money on a pair of IEMs, you usually get silicone ear tips mixed with foam ear tips. Just that way you have all the options out of the box. So if you are somebody that likes to use foam ear tips, you are gonna have to buy that separately. So now let's go ahead and jump right into the sound, because for something that I felt like was labeled as a reference grade IEM or headphone, this sound that these produced was kind of far from that. Whenever I see reference grade, I always expect them to have like this flat or neutral sound to them, and these just don't have that. In fact, what they have is a very just dynamic sound. It still has a lot of space in it. The bass has this aggressive approach, but it's still extremely fast and quick. So you get hit pretty hard, but it just continues to move on very quick. I would say it's not bloated at all. I don't feel like it ever crosses paths with the mids or the treble, and this could be because they are using a 4-way crossover system. That way they can take advantage of the bass, the mids, and the treble and not have any of these other drivers actually interfere with each other. So the balanced armature drivers are definitely focused a lot on the mids. I felt like vocalists, whether it be male or female vocalists, always sounded pretty upfront. The characteristics in both male and female vocalists just came out cleanly. Acoustic instruments and strings just have this nice textured sound to it. The treble, like I said earlier, and I think it's because of that piezoelectric driver that they're using, it has so much detail to it without ever hitting that overly harsh sound. It doesn't have the sibilant sound in S's. So what that's causing is being able to listen to these for a long time without actually having ear fatigue. And it sounds absolutely incredible with all different genres. This is a very, very good IEM for metal and for rock, mainly because being able to have the bass hit as hard as it does, but also move as quickly as it does. Again, it doesn't have that congested sound. And so for genres where there's a lot going on, that's pretty important. And then when you move over to genres like easy listening or country or classical, anything that is a little more vocal driven or focused on instruments, it does an excellent job of being able to separate all of that. Again, it doesn't have that just where it feels like everything's being crammed into one ball and being pushed out of your IEM. And then moving over to more mainstream genres like pop and hip hop, because the bass has that impact, it works really well with these genres. And also being able to pull out vocals and instruments and synthesizers and everything. They're so detailed, but also hit pretty hard. I would say that the bass on these, I was so surprised with. It's even very comparable to the Eco OH10s and the OH1s, which I consider to be some of the best bass IEMs that I've tested. It's just faster than those. It's a little more accurate than those were. And these are a lot more detailed than the Eco. So I've had a really good time listening to these, and it's just been pretty fun to go through all of these different songs that I'm pretty familiar with, because I feel like it's pulling out some things and it just sounds different than the way that I've listened to them before. So my overall opinion is this: these are definitely a little pricey for most people, especially if you're just getting into IEMs. But I think once you look at what it has to offer, when you factor in that they're using all these different drivers, especially the piezoelectric ceramic driver, this again is not something that's common in a lot of other IEMs. And also the fact that you don't have to have an amp with these. That already kind of saves you money, because amps and DACs, you know, they can range anywhere from like $70 all the way up to just thousands of dollars. And this one doesn't really require that, in my opinion. And on top of all of that, I feel like this is a really great all-arounder IEM. Not only is it good for like music and all the different genres, it's an excellent pair for gaming, and it's a really good pair for using for movies and TV shows. I mean, it just, again, brings out dialogue extremely well. You can hear all the subtle like footsteps. Again, all the little instruments and things that you may miss with some other IEMs. And again, I think that's pretty impressive in a pair that's wrapped up that you can get for under $500. Again, this is because I am familiar with testing, you know, some IEMs that are thousands of dollars. So again, for some people that may not be familiar with IEMs and testing out the different, you know, levels that you can go, initially you're going to think these are very expensive. But for what they have to offer and for how well they work for everything, I actually again think this is a really good value. But guys, that wraps up my video on the SEMGO EM10, or codename Dream. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.